Welcome
If you
back
see
to the
two
deep
red
dive.
eyes while
Today we are
driving at
heading
night,
to a
then
very
you might have seen the
specific
Mothman.
and, let's be honest,
But
a
the
very
question is,
strange corner
why does
of
he
America.
appear?
We're going to Point Pleasant, West
At
Virginia.
the end of the
Exactly.
video,
But we aren't just
you will
visiting the
see
town.
what is
We're
perhaps
traveling
the
back
most
to the
terrifying evidence
mid-1960s
of the
to unpack
Mothman.
one of the most enduring, specific, and frankly, unsettling urban legends in U.S. history.
It is a story that really has everything. I mean, it's got a monster, it has mass hysteria.
A devastating infrastructure failure.
And weirdly enough, it might have a little bit of the Adam West Batman TV show mixed in there, too.
We are, of course, talking about the Mothman. And I have to say, looking at this stack of notes, the police reports, the newspaper archives from the Point Pleasant Register, this one gets under my skin. It's not just the creature, it's the atmosphere. But our mission today isn't just to tell ghost stories. We are going to try to unpack that 13-month period of, well, absolute chaos that gripped this town between 1966 and 1967.
That is the goal. We need to separate the initial eyewitness accounts, which are actually quite different from the movie version people know, from the, the later pop culture mythology.
And look at the real theories behind it.
Exactly. The biology, the physics of flight, the psychology of fear, and how a local scare just transforms into a national myth.
So let's get right into it. The timeline here is incredibly tight, which I think adds to the intensity. It all starts on November 15th, 1966. But before the monster, we have to set the stage.
The location.
The location is called the TNT area. And honestly, even without a monster, this place sounds creepy.
It really does. So the TNT area is the local name for what's now the Clifton-McClintock Wildlife Station. But back in World War II, it was a munitions plant.
So they were making explosives.
Right. So you have to picture this. It's this dense, overgrown forest, but it's dotted with these old, abandoned concrete bunkers.
They call them igloos, right?
Exactly. These earth-covered concrete domes where they used to store high explosives. By the mid-60s, it's abandoned, it's dark, it's a labyrinth of service roads.
And it became a lover's lane.
The perfect atmospheric petri dish for a horror story.
And that is where our patient zero encounter happens. We have two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Millette. They're driving through this TNT area around midnight.
Just, minding their own business. And this is where the details get really specific.
They see something standing by the road.
And I think it's important to note, they didn't describe a bird at first. Linda Scarberry's police report is very clear. She described it as a slender, muscular man.
Whoa, hang on. Muscular? You don't describe a heron or an owl as muscular?
No. She estimated it was about 7 feet tall, but the defining features were the wings, she said they were white, and the eyes.
The eyes are iconic at this point.
Glowing red. And what's interesting is Linda noted she couldn't actually see a face. She felt like the eyes were set into the chest or shoulders.
Or they were just so hypnotic they masked everything else. Okay, but here is where I have to push back on the skeptics a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're driving at night and you see a weird shadow, maybe a deer, you might get spooked, you drive away fast.
Sure.
But you don't go to the police station in a panic unless something aggressive happens.
That is a fair point. And that is the crux of this encounter. They didn't just drive past it, they panicked and floored it toward the Point Pleasant city limits.
They were going fast.
They said easily over 100 miles an hour, and the creature followed them.
And not just running.
Flying. According to their report, it flew right above the car. They said it was making a screeching sound like a big mouse, and it kept pace with the vehicle.
That pursuit is what makes it so terrifying. A barn owl doesn't chase a Chevy at 70, 80 miles an hour.
Exactly. So they go straight to the Mason County Courthouse. They find Deputy Millard Halstead. And usually this is where the cop laughs at the kids,
Tells them to go home.
But Halstead didn't. He told reporters later that he had known them all their lives, and he had never seen them this terrified. He actually followed them back out there that night.
Did he find anything?
No, nothing but static on his radio. But the cat, or the Mothman, was out of the bag. The very next day, November 16, the story hits the press.
What was the headline?
The Point Pleasant Register runs with, "Couples see man-sized bird, creature, something."
That word something does a lot of heavy lifting.
It does. And once that headline runs, the mechanism of social contagion just kicks in. Over the next few days, reports start pouring in.
Respectable people, too.
Volunteer firemen, citizens, all reporting a large bird with red eyes.
It wasn't just in the TNT area, though. There was another incident that I think is even scarier because it happened at someone's home. the Newell Partridge story.
Right, the bandit incident. This actually happened roughly around the same time as the Scarberry sighting, but in a different spot. Newell Partridge was a local contractor.
He's at home watching TV.
And the screen starts acting up. This is old school tube TV, so buzzing, whining.
Yeah.
Then his dog, a German Shepherd named Bandit, starts going crazy on the porch.
So he goes outside with a flashlight?
He shines the beam into the hayfield nearby. And what he sees, it's not eyes in the traditional sense.
What does she say?
He described them as looking like bicycle reflectors. Just these glowing red orbs in the dark.
That detail always sticks with me. Bicycle reflectors. It implies something, I don't know, artificial.
It does. And then the heartbreaking part.
Yeah.
Bandit, being a brave dog, just shoots off across the yard to chase this thing.
Oh, no.
Partridge hears a squeal, and then nothing. He never saw the dog again.
See, that's where the fun urban legend ends for me. You can scare teenagers, but leave the dog alone.
It definitely raises the stakes.
Yep.
So now you have a town on edge. The press is descending on Point Pleasant. It's a circus. But then, fast forward 13 months.
The day the legend changes from a monster story to a tragedy.
It's December 15, 1967. The sightings have been sporadic, but consistent. It's nearly Christmas. The Silver Bridge connects Point Pleasant to Ohio.
And it's rush hour.
The bridge is packed with cars, people coming home from work, holiday shoppers.
And in a matter of seconds, it's just gone.
It was a catastrophic failure of a single eye bar in the suspension chain. The entire structure just folded like a house of cards into the freezing Ohio River. 46 people died. It was a national tragedy.
It's hard to even imagine the grief in a town that small. Everyone must have known someone on that bridge.
Absolutely. And this is where the human mind tries to cope. We struggle to accept senseless tragedy. Random structural failure is terrifying because it's unpredictable.
So we need a reason.
And almost immediately, the legend of the Mothman gets rewritten. It goes from being a creature to being an omen.
People started asking, was it trying to warn us? Was it a harbinger of doom?
Why did it appear for 13 months and then vanish right after the collapse?
But wait, was that the local sentiment at the time, or was that added later? Because I feel like when you're grieving, you aren't necessarily thinking about big birds.
You're right to be skeptical. While some locals made the connection, that narrative was heavily solidified by outside writers, specifically a man named John Keel.
Ah, the author of the Mothman prophecies.
Keel was a character. He wasn't just a reporter. He was sort of the gonzo journalist of the paranormal. He spent a lot of time at Point Pleasant.
And his book came out much later, right?
In 1975. And in it, he took these scattered reports of a big bird and injected all this high-octane paranormal weirdness.
This is where we get the men in black and UFOs.
Yes. Keel introduced UFO sightings,
Right.
mysterious phone calls, strange men in dark suits, and this whole idea of precognition that the Mothman was prophetic.
But the original reports from the Scarberries didn't say anything about UFOs.
Not a word. They just saw a monster. Keel wove the tragedy of the bridge into the myth of the monster.
It's amazing how one guy can reshape the entire memory of an event. But let's pause on the supernatural. Let's get to the science. Because I'm guessing biology has some objections to a 7-foot flying man.
Biology and physics both have some very serious objections. We should probably start with the name itself, Mothman.
Yeah, Linda Scarberry said, man. She didn't say it had antennas or 8 sweaters.
This is where pop culture bleeds into reality. In 1966, the Batman TV series with Adam West was a massive cultural phenomenon. It was everywhere.
Okay, but Mothman isn't a Batman villain. There's Killer Moth in the comics, but was he in the show?
He wasn't. But the Batman craze was so high that copy editors at newspapers were sort of primed for that naming convention. Everything was Bat this or Cat that.
So a local copy editor probably just made it up.
It's widely believed they coined Mothman simply because Batman was on everyone's mind.
That is hilarious. So if this happened today, we'd be calling him Deadpool Man or something.
Probably, yeah. But let's look at what they actually saw, because I don't think they were hallucinating. They saw something biological.
Okay.
The leading theory from wildlife biologists, specifically Dr. Robert L. Smith from West Virginia University, is the Santo crane.
All right, walk me through this. A crane is a bird. It's skinny. How do you mistake a bird for a muscular man?
Context and anatomy. First, Santo cranes are massive. They can stand almost as tall as a human, 4 to 5 feet easily, and they have a wingspan of roughly 7 feet.
Okay, that matches the size.
Now, pictured in the dark, a crane has a very long neck, but when they fly or get agitated, they can tuck that neck back. So if you see a 5-foot-tall silhouette with broad shoulders, which are its wings, and no visible neck, it looks incredibly like a headless man.
And the red eyes.
Sandhill cranes have a very distinctive patch of bright red bare skin on their forehead, right around the eyes.
So in a car headlight, that red patch just pops.
It pops, and Dr. Smith's theory was that this bird might have just wandered out of its normal migration route. The locals wouldn't have a reference point. Their brain searches for a match, fails, and settles on monster.
But hold on. The red patch on a crane is skin. It doesn't glow. Newell Partridge said bicycle reflectors.
That brings us to the owl theory and the biology of tapetum lucidum. This is the layer of tissue behind the retina in nocturnal animals. It's basically night vision.
Right, like when you take a flash photo of a cat and its eyes glow.
Exactly. But humans don't have this, which is why it scares us. When we see glowing eyes, our lizard brain says predator. Now, barred owls are common there. They have massive eyes.
If you catch one in a flashlight beam.
You get a bright, intense red eye shine. And someone actually did shoot a giant owl around that time.
I remember reading that.
Yeah, a local man named Ace Henry shot a snowy owl, which is huge and rare for that area, with a 5-foot wingspan. The papers called it a giant owl.
So we have lost sandhill cranes and giant owls interacting with nervous locals in dark bunkers. Okay, that covers the appearance. But what about the chase? Keeping up with their car at 60 or 70 miles per hour?
A crane can fly fast, maybe 30 or 40 miles an hour. But yeah, keeping up with a speeding car is a stretch. But this is where we have to bring in the physics, specifically the square cube law.
The math. Break this down for us. Why can't a man bird fly?
So the square cube law states that as an object grows in size, its volume and its weight grows much faster than its surface area. If you take a man and give him wings, the wings would need to be absolutely massive to generate enough lift for all that bone and muscle.
Like hang glider size.
Bigger. A 7-foot muscular humanoid would weigh over 200 pounds. To fly, his wingspan would need to be, 30 or 40 feet, not 10.
Wow.
And his chest muscles, the ones that flap the wings, would need to be like 6 feet deep. He would look like a giant chicken breast, not a man.
That is a horrifying and hilarious image.
But the point is, biologically, a flying man is impossible. So either the witnesses misjudged the speed, which happens when you're terrified, or the creature was a bird, which is naturally built for flight.
Or option C. Some of it was just people messing around.
We can't discount the hoaxers. Once the news broke, the TNT area became a party spot. We know for a fact that construction workers tied flashlights to helium balloons to freak people out.
That is incredibly mean, but you have to admire the commitment.
It just creates a lot of noise in the data. You have real sightings of big birds mixed with hoaxes, mixed with mass hysteria.
And yet, despite all that, the legend didn't die. In fact, Point Pleasant has kind of embraced it, haven't they?
Oh, completely. It's a fascinating sociological turn. The town has pivoted from the tragedy of the bridge collapse to capitalizing on the monster. It's their main claim to fame.
I've seen the statue. It's distinct.
The 12-foot metallic statue right in the center of town. And since 2002, they've held the annual Mothman Festival.
Which draws a huge crowd, right?
Massive. We're talking 10 to 12,000 people descending on this small town every September. They have guest speakers, hay rides, pancake eating contests. The Mothman Museum opened in 2005.
It's interesting. We take this thing that was a source of genuine terror, and we turn it into a street fair. Come for the doom, stay for the funnel cake.
It speaks to how we process fear. We domesticate it. By turning the monster into a mascot, we strip it of its power to hurt us.
But is the Mothman strictly a West Virginia thing? Because I remember hearing about a wave of sightings in Chicago a few years back.
You're right. In 2017, there was a massive spike in reports, over 50 sightings of a flying humanoid in Chicago. But this is a perfect example of something called selective sampling.
Okay, a data term. How does it apply to monsters?
Think of it this way. If you stand outside a comic book shop and ask people, do you like superheroes? You're going to get nearly 100% saying yes. That doesn't mean everyone likes superheroes.
It just means you're sampling a biased group, right?
Exactly. Psychologist David Gallo from the University of Chicago pointed out that the Chicago sightings weren't being reported to the police. They were being submitted directly to a paranormal enthusiast website.
So the people reporting are the people who are already on a ghost hunting website.
Precisely. It creates a feedback loop. If you are reading about Mothman on a website, and then you go outside and see a large heron or a shadow, you are primed to report it as Mothman to that specific website.
That makes total sense. If I'm looking for red cars, I see red cars everywhere.
Exactly. So bringing this all back to Point Pleasant, we have gone from a munitions plant in 1966 to a festival today.
What is the big takeaway here?
What's the deep dive?
I think the Mothman is the perfect modern American myth because it sits right at the intersection of three things: the natural world, the technological world, and the psychological world.
We want the bridge collapse to have a reason. Even if the reason is a scary monster, that's better than random structural failure.
It is. A monster implies a universe with rules. A rusty bolt implies chaos. We prefer the monster.
That is a profound, if slightly unsettling thought.
Well, the truth is often a mix of both.
We are just about out of time for this deep dive, but before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've talked about the sandhill crane. We've talked about the physics.
But here's the thing that sticks with me. Linda Scarberry, the Millettes, Newell Partridge. These were country people. They lived in rural West Virginia. They knew what wildlife looked like. They hunted.
That is true. They weren't city tourists.
So if the Mothman was just a crane, why were they so adamant that it had muscular legs? Why did they say it ran like a man before it took off? Does fear simply change what we see that drastically? Or is there something to be said for the sheer volume of people who looked into the dark, saw the exact same impossible thing, and refused to back down from their story?
That is the question that keeps the lights on at the Mothman Museum.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one. Stay curious and watch the skies.